Hey, you guys. Great morning, great morning. Come on in, come on in. Great morning, great morning. Come on in. While y'all are coming in, I'm going to go ahead and share. Let me share. Great morning, great morning. Let me know who's here and where you are tuning in from. Who's here and where you're tuning in from. All right. Y'all don't judge me. Don't judge me. Look, listen, but I was on time today, honey. Listen, I said it for 5:55 and I started at 5:55. I told y'all I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Listen, you guys, look, I wanted to come on this morning and just share some things that God was speaking to me as it relates to where we are in this week, in this journey. You know, the Passion Week is a very significant week. It's the week leading up to the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. And I've been saying this, and it's so important. This is a time where we have to really dig deep, like really dig deep and pull things up from the root. Hey Monty, how are you? And what that means is that we have to really be honest with ourselves. Now, listen, that's not always the easiest, but it is absolutely necessary. It's not always the easiest, but it's absolutely necessary. And one of the things that I have learned in this journey is some of my greatest blessings have come on the other side of that deep dig, right? That deep dig when you really dig deep into you. See, I've learned that the best thing that I can do, and I'm just talking about me, the best thing that I can do is really dig and understand me, understand what drives me, understand what motivates me, understand what triggers me, understand, where those things are rooted. Because as we discover those things, then we can pull them up by the root so that we can get to our destiny. There are some things that we will not get to until we dig deep enough to pull that stuff up by the root. And that requires a level of transparency with ourselves, even that we're not even comfortable with. So I'm grateful for my journey because all of my journey has been designed to dig those things out. And all of those things in your journey have been designed to dig those things out. So as you begin to dig those things out, I came to give you a word of encouragement. Listen, because you've chosen to take the journey, because you've chosen to dig deep, I need you to understand that he who began a good work in you is faithful and just to bring it to completion until the coming of Christ. What does that mean? It means that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all right. It's okay that you've got stuff. We've all got stuff. It's not okay that you've got stuff and you won't admit you got stuff and you won't deal with your stuff. That's what's not okay. But the moment we get real with ourselves, the moment we allow God to dig deep inside of us and pull stuff up. Listen, I'll tell you something. I always talk about the healing process and I talk about it like an onion, like there are layers, right? There are layers to this, there are layers to us, right? And we may have peeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers deep, right? But still, there are more layers yet to go. And so we've got to be open to allowing those layers to be healed. So y'all know how I do. I believe in using me as an example, right? I believe in using me as an example. So what I've discovered is when things trigger me, and we all have triggers, when things trigger me, I have to see what's triggering that. What is that? What is that rooted in? And until you get to what it's rooted in, you can't deal with it. You can't heal from it, right? You can put a band-aid on it. You can mask it, you can put makeup on it, but you'll never truly heal from it until you deal with where does that come from. And the reality is for most of us, now I'm just saying now, y'all might not want to hear this, but the reality is for most of us, that most of our deepest wounds come from our childhood. They come from our childhood. They come from our relationships with our parents. They come from our experiences with our siblings. They come from our experiences with our aunts and uncles, cousins, family, from friends in childhood, from going to school. But those childhood wounds are those wounds that are probably the deepest, and those that have layered trauma attached to it. What is layered trauma, Dr. V? Layered trauma is when you have a childhood wound and then you have it replicated over and over and over again throughout your life. And so what happens is you think it's about the thing that just happened, but it's not about the thing that just happened. It's really about the childhood thing that it triggered, right? So most of the time in your conflicts with people, it's not about what happened right then. It's about something much deeper. It's about something that is rooted in a childhood trauma. And until you deal with the childhood trauma, you will not be able to heal. It means that you're looking at the world through lenses that are not always accurate. You're looking at the world through lenses that can be skewed. You're looking at the world in ways that is shaped by the trauma of childhood, right? So here we go, y'all. This is the real. So once you realize that, then you got to pull back, draw back, and figure out, okay, what is this? What is this, right? Now, the challenge is that when people trigger each other, that there's normally some common traumas that are there that they represent, they reflect each other. They reflect each other. It's so crazy. You reflect each other. You see something in them, and that is something in you, and then it just triggers, right? So what we have to do is identify those things and address them. And it's not about addressing things necessarily with people, but just addressing things with yourself, dealing with that with God, going before God and saying, God, hey, I need your help, right? I can't fix this. I can't dig this out. Those deep traumas are often so deeply rooted that you're not even aware they're there. This Sunday, as I was ministering, and I was ministering to people, God began to reveal some deep traumas to me, and I began to address the deep trauma, not the surface things, not the things that they were doing or dealing with right then, but the things that were rooted deep, right? Where did that come from? What's at the source of a lot of the stuff that you're experiencing? And very often it's parental relationships. It's parental relationships. Parental relationships are so key. And that's why, as parents, we have to make sure that we are having conversations with our kids and really allowing them not only to express how they feel, but to acknowledge their feelings, and then help them navigate that. There's some things they're going to have to do on their own, but there's some things that we can help them navigate, right? It may be something that's generational. It may be a generational trauma that's passed from generation to generation to generation. And some of that is DNA, but also some of that is patterns and behaviors. And so we've got to understand that God desires to heal us at the root, right? In the deep places. This is what this week is about for me. This week is all about me really dealing with that deep-rooted trauma that seems to keep occurring, that seems to keep showing up in my life. Why? If I'm ever going to have anything different, I have to get rid of that. I have to deal with that. I have to address that, because if not, it's going to hinder everything that God is trying to do in my life. Now, I recognize that for me, and I know that for me, that's what I have to do. Now, you all have a choice. You have a choice to continue living out your traumas, or really digging deep enough to address them. It means that you got to get honest with yourself, but it also may mean that you need some external eyes. Sometimes we're so close to a thing that we can't really see it clearly. We're so deeply enrooted in it that we don't recognize it. It's just like if you've not been in a situation, and then you see that's another situation, and you like, that's not, right? But all you know is what you know. Like what we know is what we have become accustomed to, how we have been accustomed to behaving, how we have been accustomed to living. A lot of times we may struggle with addressing conflict. Like we don't like conflict. Why? Because maybe something happened in our past, in our childhood, where we tried to address a conflict and it resulted in a not good outcome. So then we stop addressing conflict because we say if we don't address it, if we don't see it, if we act like it's not there, it'll go away. It doesn't go away. In fact, it gets worse, right? So when we understand what's going on with us or what our patterns are, then we can begin to do some things differently. Now, I'll be honest with you. I normally am the type of person, like, I'm just going to address it. I'm just going to address it. And God said, everything doesn't need to be addressed because sometimes things are not even what they seem to be. Sometimes, because we're dealing with not just the natural war, we're dealing with the spiritual war. There's a spiritual battle. And so what we've got to understand is the enemy is always trying to throw us off, get us off course, get us out of character, cause us to react or respond a certain way. So sometimes you got to just pause, right? You got to just pause and allow God to really minister to your heart. I've learned that there are instances where when there's something that you can't resolve in the natural, that if you just give it to God and allow God to work on your heart and work on the other person's heart, then there's more likely to be a resolve that's effective, right? Sometimes the words get in the way. Sometimes the emotions get in the way. Sometimes our perspectives get in the way. So the best thing to do is just draw back and let God really minister, reveal to you, give you wisdom, help you to understand what you don't understand. Because yes, we can try to understand things in the natural and you can get some of it. But when you let God speak to your heart, baby, your understanding is a different kind of understanding. It is a different kind of experiencing. And so healing, real healing, is going to require us to let God reveal some things, work on some things in us, right? And then let him do it. You just got to let him do it. Like he's the only one who can do it. He's the only one who can do it. But do you know how he does it best? He does it best when we can stay in a place of love. The enemy always wants to get us out of a place of love. He wants to get us in a place of conflict, combat, division. Like that's what he's all about. Divide and conquer. That's his number one tactic: divide and conquer. So what we have to do is stay in a place of love. If we can just stay in a place of love, and sometimes that's challenging, but if we can stay in a place of love, God can work with us. God can work with us. Listen to me. God can work with us. He can work with others. And he can work with our situations and our circumstances. It is his great pleasure for his ministry of reconciliation to reign. Period. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants. So I think it's ironic that the other day my eyes like just were so on fire and swollen and everything. And I told you guys that God was going to give me supernatural sight and supernatural insight. And that's what he's been doing. Like, it's like I've been getting these downloads. It's like he's been peeling layers, scales even, from my eyes so that I could see some things with greater clarity, so that I could see some things and really understand that it's deeper. It's deeper than what it looks like on the surface. It's deeper than what it appears. So you all, this week is a week that's designed specifically for us to be able to get what we need from God, to get the understanding we need from God, to get the clarity we need from God, to get the healing that we need from God, but to get whatever it is that we need from God. That means we got to do work. We got to do some work. We got to do some work. Now, I'm in Tampa, right? I'm in Tampa. And it's interesting to me to be in Tampa right now because Tampa was home for me for 11 years. It was home for me for 11 years. And it feels different. Doesn't feel like home. It feels like I'm a guest. I'm visiting a place. But this is not home for me any longer. The ironic thing about that is today in our 21-day, Ford Focus 21-day fast, we're on day 17, and 17 is place. Talks about place, right? And recognizing that lets me know that I'm living in the right place, right? I'm living in the right place. Now, this is challenging because my children are here. At least 3 of my children are here. And so it seems strange for it not to be home, but my babies are here, right? And it's interesting because I haven't been able to spend a lot of time with them. I haven't been able to spend a lot of time with them. And I'm sharing this because this is going to bless somebody. It's going to help somebody. I haven't been able to spend a lot of time with them because there's been some friction. And God is doing some stuff. So in the midst of that, though, y'all, I want you to hear me. In the midst of that, it may seem like I don't want to be with them. And that's not the case. This entire journey has been like a weaning. You know, as a mother, a lot of times you want to keep your babies in the nest. It's hard to let them go, let them grow, let them come into their own. It's hard for them to do that. I've been with my kids so much, and they've been able to come to me, count on me, have me be there for so long that it's difficult for them, me making a transition, me discovering and building relationships with new family. It's challenging for them. And each of them deals with it differently. Every one of them deals with it differently, but every one of them is definitely dealing with it. And sometimes when you got multiple people taking a journey simultaneously, but differently, it can be confusing and conflicting. That's what I'm going to say, confusing and conflicting. Confusing because each person is kind of looking at it from their perspective, like what they're going through, not necessarily understanding or acknowledging or addressing what everybody else is going through. Because the reality is you really can't address what everybody is going through. You have to figure out, how do we all go through this transition individually but together? How do we all go through these changes individually but together? How do we navigate the complexities of our individual lives and our collective lives? Like, what does life even look like? I think about, as it relates to this week, you know, the disciples had been with Jesus, right? They've been with him. And all of a sudden, here it was, their Lord their teacher, their master, their boy, their friend, is going through some stuff that they don't know what to do with. And so they all respond, right? Some of them just disappear, right? Some of them are kind of around, but not really around. You got Peter who said, Lord, I won't allow it. I won't allow this to happen to you. I'll never leave you. Who finds himself in a place where now they're taking his Lord. He done cut the man's ear out. Jesus done put it back on. And he's outside and he's trying to see what's going on. But the people are saying, oh, he's one of them. Now he understands if he acknowledges being one of them, he runs the risk of also being detained, captured, tortured, put to death, whatever. And in the moment, all he's thinking is, man, I'm not trying to die right now, right? And so he says, no, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I wasn't with him. No, I'm not one of them. See, we look at Peter in that moment and we can get very judgmental and say, oh, I would never do that. Come on now. You don't know what you would do until you're in the midst of a situation. And see, this is why I try to be real careful not to judge people wherever they are in whatever process they're in, because I don't know how I would respond. And even if I do know how I would respond, it's irrelevant, period, right? So, I look at it and I'm thinking, we act like the stuff that we're going through is the end of the world or it's the most important thing. But the reality is, this is an opportunity for us to participate in the suffering of Christ, right? He suffered. We got to suffer. We're going to suffer. That's a reality. There will be suffering in this life. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. They're selling you a pipe dream, right? It's a fantasy. We're going to suffer. The question is, how will you suffer? How will you go through your suffering? Will you make it out on the other side of your suffering with your right mind? So as I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about Peter and the disciples and everything that was going on, I'm looking at Peter a little differently this year. I don't know why this is, but I'm looking at Peter a little differently this year. Normally when I think about Peter, I'm like, I can't believe Peter did that. He talking all that trash. Oh, Jesus, you my boy. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't gonna let nobody do nothing to you. Then when push come to shove, like he denies him not once, not twice, but 3 times. Come on, dude, what? But I'm looking at Peter a little differently this year. I'm looking at Peter with a level of empathy that I may not have had in the past. And I think that when we operate from a place of empathy, it'll give us the opportunity to have a little deeper insight into people, into their lives, into their feelings, into what they're going through, right? And so as I look at it, I'm like, man, how challenging that must have been for them, to see the one who was the Messiah, the one who was their teacher, who was their master, who had performed all these miracles and, healed the sick and freed the captives, cast out demons and caused the lame to walk, healed leprosy, gave sight to the blind, I'm like, caused the mute to talk. Like, can you imagine seeing someone who had done all that and then seeing them like dragged off? Like you just gonna let them do that? Like, you did all of this, but you just gonna let them do that? Like, it doesn't make sense in the natural. It doesn't make sense that he would do that. Like, so I know they had to wonder, like, is he really the one? Because if he was really the one, wouldn't he stop it? Like, wouldn't he cause them to like let him go? Wouldn't he do something? Because like, he's the King of Kings. Like, come on, you're the King of Kings, dude. What you doing? Why you letting them do you like that? It had to be confusing and conflicting. Just looking at it a little differently. So then as I look at my life, and I pray that you all are looking at your lives, right? So as I look at my life, I look at it and I'm like, Really, God? Really? I'm going to try to keep it together. Keep it cute. But can I be real with you guys for a second? Well, I always try to be real, but God has always challenged me in ways that just were beyond what most people go through. Like, in my 55 years, I've gone through enough stuff for 7 different people living 70 years. It's so crazy to me, but it's the truth. I know some people may think I'm exaggerating, but I promise you, I'm not exaggerating. So when I look at all that's happened, I find myself saying, really, God? And I don't know about you. Maybe it's just me, but sometimes I get tired of being chosen. Can you choose somebody else? Can you pick somebody else? I know you have faith in me. I know you know that I can make it to the other side, but can somebody else carry this? And I think about Jesus. Listen, when Jesus was in the garden, listen, y'all, I need y'all to understand that thing was real for him. That thing was real. Jesus was like, look, I know what my assignment is. I know what my assignment is. I know what I have to do. But listen, is there another way that this can be done? Is there another way? You know what that does for me? Like, that gives me hope. You know why? It lets me know there's not something wrong with me. Jesus went through it too. Jesus said, is there another way? Is there somebody else? Can somebody else do this? Can somebody else carry this? Is there another way that we can accomplish the same goal? Because I want the goal, right? I want the goal, but I don't necessarily want it like this. We romanticize what Jesus went through during this week. We romanticize it. Like, I don't think that we often personalize it enough to really get the depth and the magnitude of what Jesus went through. I was grateful when Mel Gibson did the movie The Passion of the Christ, because it removed the romanticized version of what happened to Jesus and what he went through. And I remember watching it. Matter of fact, I'm going to watch it again this week. I remember watching it, and when they hit him with the whip, and you could hear his flesh tearing, that stuff, that made me be like, whoa. Ooh. And it was almost as though I could feel the lashes as he experienced them. God wants us to really understand the level of suffering that Jesus experienced, so we can really appreciate the sacrifice that he made and understand the power that he gained in the resurrection and what he handed to us. Y'all, there's no way anyone would just go through what he went through for the sake of going through it. There's no way. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. And the fact that he did that for us means that I can make it through whatever suffering, whatever challenges that I may face. Is it fair? What is fair even, right? What is fair? Life is not fair. Life is what it is for a reason. It is what it is to propel you, to prepare you, to condition you, to build you for your destiny and your kingdom assignment. Now, the greater your kingdom assignment, the more hell that you go through. Like, that's just facts. So when I look at it and I want to say, God, can somebody else just? I know that on the other side of all of this is something that is magnificent, that is designed to do a great work in the kingdom. And so me abdicating, going through the challenges, the suffering, the sacrifices, that is the equivalent of saying, I don't want to be ready for that. I don't want that assignment, because without it, I can't get the assignment. Without it, what God has created, birthed, developed me to do in the kingdom doesn't get done like that. Doesn't get done by me, right? And so we've got to understand that no matter what it is that we're going through, no matter what it is that we face, no matter what it is, how unfair it was, or how it seems like someone else got a better deal than we got, like none of that matters, because what we got was what we needed for where we are assigned to be and what we're assigned to do and the people that we are called to. Without it, you can't reach them. Without it, you don't have the level of understanding and compassion necessary to do it. But it all requires healing. See, without the healing, you're just bitter. Without the healing, you're just angry. Without the healing, you're just jealous. Without the healing, you're just. So we have to get the healing. The healing is the crucial piece that connects our past and our present so that we can get to our future. The healing is the piece that helps us to be prepared for what it is that God is calling us to do. The healing is the thing we struggle with, though. We struggle with the healing. Why do we struggle with the healing? Because there are things we don't want to let go of. They've become a part of our lives. They've become it's something that we're accustomed to. It's become a pattern of behavior. And if you're not aware of those patterns, they keep showing up time after time after time after time. And you're thinking that it's everybody else, but it's not everybody else. It's you. It's the lack of healing. So I understand that there are some things that really, it's not about other people. It's about me. It's about my healing. It's about God digging some stuff up out of me so that I can be the love that he desires me to be. And so when God needs you to be love, what does he do? He puts you in situations where it's not easy to love, right? It's not easy, and you may not feel loved, or you may feel all of this stuff, but you got to love anyway. When he needs you to operate in unconditional love, you're going to deal with some ish that'll make you want to hurt somebody, but you got to love. Like, it doesn't matter how anyone else responds. You have to love. And yes, it is challenging. And yes, it hurts. It doesn't feel good. And yes, you want to say stuff and do stuff. And all of that is true. It is accurate. And you want to say, is there another way, God? Is there another way for me to get to this level of love, the love that you have for people, without me going through all of this and dealing with craziness and dealing with people? Is there another way? No, there's not another way. And so you have to decide, are you going to continue to complain about what you've got to go through to get the fruits that he needs you to have? Or are you going to go through it with grace? Are you going to go through it with grace, even when it hurts, even when it doesn't feel good, even when you feel a type of way? Are you going to go through it with grace? Are you going to be willing to be that sacrifice, that living sacrifice? I want you to think about it. When you think about the living sacrifice, there are 3 specific stories that come to mind for me that I want to share with you that really, to me, epitomize what it is that we are called to do and go through. The first one is Abraham having to sacrifice Isaac, having to take the son of the promise and take him to the. He loved this boy. Now he loved him. See, I'm telling y'all, I wish we could get how real this stuff is. He loved this boy. This is the child that God told him was the promise. Now he had already had another son. He and Sarah done it their way. And they had another son, and God said, "That's not it. That's not what I told you." And so, okay, well, here, God, okay, well, do what you're gonna do. God does it. He says that, you're going to be the father of many nations. And then he says, I want you to go sacrifice Isaac. But this is who you said was the seed. This is the one that you said was the seed of the promise, like this is the child of the promise. God, well, you said, and he could have gone through all of that, but he didn't. He took the boy, had the boy carry his own wood to the altar. Does that sound familiar? Had to line the wood up, tell him, okay, get on the altar. He gets on the altar. The boy said, Dad, where's the sacrifice? So don't worry about it. Just get on the altar. So he gets on the altar. And as a parent, with his child laying there looking at him, not tied up, not bound, laying there freely and willingly, raises the knife, prepares to sacrifice him, and God says, stop. There's a ram in the bush. Use that. So he gets it. They sacrifice the ram. Isaac goes home with his father. And Abraham has proven to God that he loves him enough to sacrifice that which was most important to him. First story. Second story. Hosea the prophet is told to marry a woman. Everybody knows she a hoe. A real hoe. He marries her anyway. People looking at him crazy. Like, how you gonna marry the hoe? Everybody knows she a hoe. Everybody done had her. Everybody having her still. How you gonna marry the hoe? God told me that this was my wife. And I'm to love her. So she gets pregnant. It's not his. Has the baby. He names the baby. She goes out hoeing again. Gets pregnant. Has the baby. He names the baby. It's not his. But this doesn't happen one or two times. This happens several times. Eventually she goes off, wanders off, and she's hoeing. She ends up being put on the blocks to be sold. Here he is. He has to go buy his wife from the blocks because she was out there hoeing. And in front of everyone, he purchases her and takes her home. And still yet, God says, stay, love. As a demonstration of his unconditional love for us, you see, Hosea was a living sacrifice. What does it do to a man to see his wife do all that and you still gotta stay? People talking about him, laughing at him. But he knows what God said. Brings me to the third. Jesus. Sees us getting it all wrong, messing up, not believing. Disciples didn't even believe half the time. Like, they didn't even get it. The people closest to him really didn't get it. People wanted to be around him for what he could do for them, not for just who he was. Maybe a few for just who he was, but most of them for what he could do for them. Like, as long as it was beneficial, it was all good. Can any of y'all relate to that? As long as it's beneficial, people, like being there, rocking with you, because it's beneficial to them. They get something out of it. People being with you because of what they can get from you, but not just because of who you are. And so he has this assignment, and he knows it's his assignment because his daddy gave it to him. He knew it was why he came. All the things that he went through was preparing him for that time. He went through 33 years of preparation to be prepared to be that sacrifice. So, and we don't hear a lot about all the stuff he went through. I want y'all to pay attention to that. We don't hear a lot about all that he went through. Those books are excluded from the Bible, okay? We don't hear about that, right? We hear about when he was born. We hear about when he was 12. And then we don't hear anything else until he comes on the scene at 33. You don't think no stuff happened in between there? You don't think he went through no stuff? You're delusional if you don't think he went through stuff between 12 and 33. Delusional, right? So here he is, and he understands that he has an assignment. And his assignment is to be a living sacrifice, willingly to give up his life for us, so that we might be saved. Now, check this out. This is the interesting thing to me. We think that Jesus was called to be a living sacrifice. Hosea was called to be a living sacrifice. Isaac was called to be a living sacrifice, but we're not called to be a living sacrifice. Oh yeah, we recite the scripture. We present our body a living. We think it's about celibacy. It's not about celibacy. It's about your life. It's about your life. Your entire life has to be a living sacrifice. Great, you're celibate, but you treat people like trash. Now your life ain't no living sacrifice. Come on now. Look, we got to do better. We reduce everything in our spiritual Christian journey to sex, and it's not just about that. Listen, I would contend that ain't even the most important part, right? We've got to understand that there's so much more to this journey. See, the true living sacrifice, this is when, you want to do something. You could do something. You would be justified to do it, but you don't. Going through the things of your life, illness, family challenges, relational problems, whether it be romantic, friendship, business, whatever it is. Facing the obstacles of life when you would, could, should give up, but you don't. You keep pressing so that you might be an example. People ask me, why do you share so much of your life on social media? People get offended by it. People feel a way about it. God told me a long time ago, your life is going to be on public display as an example. That's a freaking living sacrifice, because that means everything I do is up for view, debate, discussion, judgment, all of that, right? I still got to go through it, and I got to go through it publicly. So I understand that that's my assignment. Does it have me looking crazy sometimes? Yes. Does it have people mocking me, ridiculing me? Yes. Does it have people judging me? Yes. It has all of that. But what I understand is I didn't choose it. God chose me. Who am I to argue with God about what his assignment is for me? He's the one who created me, so clearly he knows what my use is. He created the handbook for me, my life, how I'm to live my life, right? Like, ta-da, this is it, right? And because of that, I understand that everything that I go through, everything that happens in my life is absolutely working together for my good. Even when I don't know it, when I don't understand it, it doesn't make sense. It looks crazy. Like, it's all working together for my good. There's something that God wants to get out of it. There's something that God wants to show me, other people, and the world in the midst of it. So I am reality TV. This is reality TV. This is the reality. This is my real life. This is not fake. It's not exaggerated, and it's not scripted. Like, I wish there was a script and I could change some lines or change this scene, take this scene out. But it's not. But that's what we got to understand. All of our lives are living sacrifices. Now, yours may not have to be on public display like mine, but your life is designed to be a living sacrifice. So let's shift our perspective. See, what we're going through is nothing compared to what Jesus went through. No, it's nothing compared to that. So instead of complaining, let's express some gratitude. Let's be thankful. Thankful to God that He selected us, chose us to go through the journey, selected us, chose us to be a living sacrifice in that particular situation, and know that He's going to get glory out of it. God is producing oil. Baby, what happened on Sunday for other people could not have happened had I not gone through the stuff that I'd gone through to prepare me to deal with things the way that I did. See, God has given me a different level of insight. It just is different. It's different. It's different. He just uses me differently. And it's okay. Even if people don't understand it, it's okay. Because He gets the result that He desires. There's a reason He chose me. And it's not because I'm perfect, because I'm not. It's not because I always get it right, because I don't. It's not because I'm without flaw, because I have them. But it's because I'm willing. I'm willing. I'll do it. I'll be on display. I'll take the hits. I'll do it even if it looks crazy, even if it goes against someone. Like, I'll do it. If that's what He said do, that's what I'm going to do. He knows that I'm going to give Him a level of obedience that most people won't. Now, am I obedient in everything? I'm not. But He knows those things that He needs me to be. Like, okay, I need you to. I'm not saying I do it like, okay, God. I'm not saying that. He knows. He gives me an assignment. I'm going to do everything in my power to fulfill that assignment. Because I love Him. And I know that He's not going to have me do anything that's going to destroy me. So even in my move, leaving my kids, and it's not like they're babies. Like, my baby's turning 18 Friday, okay? It's not like I threw them to the wolves. They with their daddy, okay? But still, right? God is doing something. But He had to do some things in me away from them, and He's still doing them. So that I could then help them navigate some stuff. Change is challenging. Finding out you got a whole nother family, that's challenging. Shakes your foundation, your core. You're like, who am I? But it's not designed to destroy you. It's designed to build you, to complete you, to make you whole, so that you can really get to where God is taking you. You all, this week, as we are observing, honoring the sacrifices of Jesus, Yeshua, our Messiah, our Savior, I encourage you to make it personal. Make it personal and see what transformations occur in your life. Don't do this as just a form and fashion. Really put yourself in the story and see what you take away from it. God desires us to be a living sacrifice. Even if we don't always get it right, He desires us to love unconditionally. Even if people don't always get it right, He desires us to allow others to see us being a living, breathing embodiment of His love, His grace, and His mercy, even if they don't say thank you. You all, I pray that today you have an amazing and incredible day. As we take the journey, keep breathing. Love you to life and life more abundant. Be blessed.